When you first get into photography, the first problem you're going to have is what camera to buy. Now, there's certain cameras out there that will give you elite quality or ridiculously high price. There's some cameras that will give you poor quality for a very low price that are great for when you first start and you're trying to learn the settings of the camera. However, there's one camera in particular that, especially for sports photographers, gives you near enough elite quality images for a fairly low price. And now when I say that, I'm of course speaking about the Canon 1DX. The Canon 1DX has been around for years and years and years, and is still to this day being used at the top level. Now, at the top level, it's not necessarily going to be someone's main body. However, a lot of people will have it as a second or third body for their wider or behind the goal cameras. The first thing you're going to notice when you buy 1DX is the build quality. This thing is massive. Now, this can be a huge positive, but it can also be a huge negative. Of course, a positive is that it's not going to break as easy and it's going to be durable and last you a long time. However, the downside to this is that if you're using it with a wide lens or you're trying to choose it on the go, it's going to be very difficult and impractical for you to use with how big and heavy it can be. However, if you're willing to overlook the size and the weight of the camera, it's a ridiculously good camera for a ridiculously low price. Currently, you can find these secondhand between £500 and £600, potentially even a little bit less if you do some proper digging. If you're looking to work on a budget, you can then pair this camera with a Canon EF lens, which is significantly cheaper than a Canon RF lens. Now, of course, this means that the 1DX is a DSLR, not a mirrorless. However, if you're just getting into photography and this is your first elite camera, that's not going to matter too much, as the perks you get with a mirrorless, you're probably not ready to properly take advantage of yet. Now, surprisingly for a DSLR, the 1DX's low light capabilities is unbelievable. I shot a lot of non-league, low light football games under yellow and dim floodlights with the 1DX. And don't get me wrong, it obviously put a lot more noise onto the image than a mirrorless camera would. However, if we're speaking in terms of the DSLR competitors, the 1DX's low light performance is really, really good. Now, to any sports photographers watching this, the main stat that you're going to be wondering is how many photos can this camera take per second? Now, obviously, with it being a DSLR, it's not going to be able to compete with the mirrorless cameras that can take 30 or 40 photos a second. However, the 1DX does have a really strong 14 photos per second in the high plus shutter mode. The question that I get asked a lot around the 1DX is it still worth it? And 100% it is. Now, of course, this will depend if you're using a Canon R1 and R3. Obviously, I wouldn't say get the 1DX. However, if you're using an entry-level camera and you're looking to upgrade, I'd 100% say the 1DX. Or if you're even using a medium to elite level camera and you're looking for a second body within a reasonably tight budget, I would say get the Canon 1DX.